Right now, 6 obsidian drones the size of freight containers orbit an interstellar object moving through our outer solar system. They are arranged in a flawless hexagon, each node holding a perfect distance from the object and from each other as if some unseen hand is holding taut invisible strings. The pattern is so exact that mission planners are calling it impossible. The object they circle is not a comet by any ordinary definition. It is elongated, reflective in a way that confuses our spectrometers, and trailing a faint, deliberate wake of electromagnetic noise. Scientists at multiple observatories are calling the cluster nothing short of an escort, and the reaction in secure briefing rooms is simple and unvarnished. We are being escorted. What you are not being told in headline blurbs is this. The escort is not a passive phenomenon. It behaves like a coordinated protective detail. Over the past 3 months, as the object moved from the Kuiper Belt toward the inner system, the drones executed maneuvers that would strain the limits of our best guidance systems. They adjusted for solar tides and Jupiter-induced perturbations with microsecond precision. They reformed into defensive shells when micrometeorite streams intersected their path. They redirected charged particle flux away from the central body using localized fields that our instruments can detect but cannot replicate. When radar arrays tried to map their surface, the echoes returned patterns that suggest engineered cavities, lattices, and layered coatings of materials unknown to our catalogs. The first unambiguous detection occurred on September 7th, 2025, when a deep space network array recorded a transient signal while tracking an object cataloged as I-29. Initially, the data stream looked like noise. Then the signal resolved into a pulse train that encoded mathematical sequences with structural complexity far beyond ambient cosmic background. Pi to thousands of places, a lattice of prime gaps, non-trivial solutions to combinatorial problems that had not been published anywhere. The moment cryptographers fed those sequences into comparative models, they realized the pulses were not only information-rich, they were pedagogical. Whoever or whatever sent them was demonstrating method, not merely broadcasting identity. This triggered the kind of international scramble that cannot be sugar-coated. National space agencies synchronized observation windows and reallocated assets. Classified research programs were rebooted overnight. A multinational working group formed under a veneer of diplomacy. Behind closed doors, militaries upgraded monitoring priority levels, usually reserved for incoming ballistic threats. The language used by senior analysts was clinical but urgent. One senior official said, quote, "If this formation were around any terrestrial asset, we would assume it was a protective escort with active defense capabilities." End quote. The implication was clear. Someone values that object highly enough to commit a fleet. Materials returned from spectral decomposition are the real problem. The drones are coated in a metacomposite that absorbs and re-emits electromagnetic energy at efficiencies we cannot reconcile with known physics. Their reflectivity changes by design across frequency bands. At optical frequencies, they behave like polished obsidian, reflecting little. At radio frequencies, they appear nearly invisible. Their thermal signature is inconsistent, sometimes mimicking the background cosmic microwave sill, sometimes presenting as cold, metallic blackness. Laboratories that attempted to synthesize analogs found that the production would require phase transitions and pressure regimes that do not exist within any natural stellar formation process we understand. Even more disturbing are the maintenance signatures. We expected relics of ancient travel, pockmarks from micrometeorites, sputter from solar wind interactions, structural fatigue. Instead, surface scans reveal healing. Impact sites show lattice reordering within hours, as if the material can autonomously reorganize molecular bonds. Cosmic ray tracks appear annealed. In one set of observations, over the course of a week, surface features smoothed out, and a near-perfect mirror patch re-emerged where a high-velocity dust stream had struck. Mother Nature does not polish itself, and yet here is evidence of active repair under interstellar conditions. The drones are not silent watchers either. Every 14.9 seconds, they emit synchronized packets that encode mathematical frameworks. These are not random sequences meant to prove intelligence. They contain applied concepts in physics and engineering packaged as solvable tasks. Early transmissions included an encoded derivation of a type of field containment algorithm. Later packets provided a compact architecture for energy storage cells, with theoretical densities that dwarf contemporary chemical batteries. There is a pattern in the progression. Initial messages establish baseline mathematics. Subsequent packets present layered, cumulative problems with the effect of teaching. The impression among analysts is that the senders expect reciprocity. They are testing comprehension and responsiveness. When human researchers responded with simple challenge sequences designed to establish two-way exchange, the reaction was immediate and unnerving. Within the round-trip delay, appropriate to light speed, the drones altered their emission profile. They completed partial proofs we had transmitted incomplete. They returned optimized constants for engineering problems where our best minds had stalled. In one instance, we transmitted a constrained thermodynamic problem. The response included a compact notation for a material lattice that would permit heat conduction decoupled from phononic scattering. The math was elegant and self-consistent. Our computers validated the internal logic, even if we could not physically realize the matter described. The geopolitical fallout was predictable and swift. Nations realized whoever decodes these transmissions first could shortcut decades of R&D and alter power balances forever. Competition replaced collaboration behind secure doors. Sensor tasking logs show that 3 major spacefaring nations quietly redirected reconnaissance assets to maintain near-continuous coverage of the formation. A previously secret network of ground and orbital nodes now operates in concert to triangulate signals and defend observation integrity. Military planners are drafting contingencies that resemble both deterrence posture and accelerated acquisition programs. No one is under any illusion about the stakes. This is not just exotic science. This is strategic leverage. There is precedent. In 2017, an anomalous interstellar object transited our system and challenged assumptions. Its trajectory and material properties forced rapid adaptation in tracking protocols, and it left behind a residue of questions. Subsequent reanalysis of archived sensor data uncovered faint, correlated emissions coincident with its path. Those emissions were too weak to analyze then, but they shared structure with the transmissions we now see. That earlier object may have been a scout. This new arrival may be part of a pattern of reconnaissance spanning decades. As the escorted object draws nearer, the formation changes. The hexagon stretches, then folds into a layered veil, as if preparing for a different phase. Sensors detect the emergence of discrete lobes that emit narrowband sweeps toward Earth. These sweeps are not random. They map to cartographic reconstructions of our planet. They lock onto maritime traffic corridors, power infrastructure signatures, and concentrations of electromagnetic emissions. In plain terms, this is surveillance calibrated to our civilization. The distance at closest approach is being refined, but current models place it within a few million miles of Earth, close enough to resolve man-made installations and to perform high-fidelity scans. That proximity changes the calculus entirely. Then there is the content of later transmissions. After weeks of mathematical exchange, packets began to contain conditional instructions. They offered modular blueprints for devices that, if assembled with extraordinary precision and materials we currently cannot refine, would enable propulsion concepts several orders of magnitude beyond chemical rockets. They also included molecular schematics for medical interventions that could, in theory, repair cellular degradation and alter genomic stability. Cryptographers warn that the packets are pedagogically dangerous. They democratize seeds of technological power in ways that demand ethical and political decisions before implementation. Giving this knowledge to a single nation or corporation could destabilize the global order. More unsettling is the apparent value system encoded in some messages, alongside pure mathematics and engineering. There are modules presenting axiomatic frameworks, resembling social protocols. They include proofs about cooperation structures and game-theoretic constructs that reward coordination over unilateral gain. It is as if the senders are evaluating not only our technical competence, but also our capacity to act collectively. Some transmissions include puzzles that cannot be solved without open data sharing and synchronous global computation. Analysts interpret this as a deliberate moral filter, a test scaffold evaluating whether we can form the kind of cooperative institutions their senders consider necessary for technological stewardship. There are darker interpretations too. If an intelligence has the power to evaluate and to share, it also has the power to withhold, to coerce, to judge. In closed hearings, senior defense advisors discuss scenarios that end badly if mismanaged. A single misapplication of a transmitted protocol could conceivably create cascading failures in critical infrastructure. National security planners are particularly concerned about the possibility that these transmissions carry not just information, but also embedded exploit vectors tailored to our technology. Until that risk is mitigated, every piece of data must be treated as both opportunity and threat. What makes all of this existential is timing. The arrival corresponds with a rapid acceleration in global connectivity, a proliferation of advanced manufacturing systems, and a fragile political landscape. The senders appear to be assessing whether the species that produced radio waves, nuclear fission, and global internet is capable of managing the responsibilities of accelerated advancement. Their evaluation criteria are opaque. They may require demonstration of restraint, of global governance, or of cohesive scientific maturity. Or they may be testing for something else entirely. For now, humanity stands at an inflection. We can treat this as the greatest collaborative project ever conceived. We can pool resources, share data, and design ethical guardrails. Or we can allow competition and secrecy to fracture response and hand advantage to the few who first decode and implement the knowledge. The former pathway offers a chance to leap forward as a civilization. The latter risks concentrated power with consequences impossible to predict. As the escorted object sweeps inward, avowed skeptics argue for caution and controlled silence. Optimists envision a renaissance of science and human flourishing. Realists prepare for both. The drones continue their silent, precise choreography, sending packets that alternately instruct and provoke. Every transmission is a question asking where we stand as a species. Every maneuver the escorts perform is a reminder that we are no longer alone in the grand sense. An evaluation window has opened. The outcome depends not on the technology alone, but on our choices. In the months ahead, governments will convene, scientists will publish under secrecy, and a few crucial decisions will be made outside public view. The possible futures range from an era of abundance to conflicts we cannot imagine. The escorts have placed a mirror before us. They can teach. They can test. They can ignore. And perhaps they can judge. As they move through our neighborhood, we must decide whether to answer the test as a dozen rival states or as a single cooperating species. The spacecraft observe. The clock advances. The nearest approach will be calculated precisely and declared. What we do next may define humanity for centuries.